Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody. Welcome to the NASA's Earthdata Forum Connect to a Growing Body of Expertise webinar. This is your host, Jennifer Brennan. I've got 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. First, what I'll do is I'll go over just a few webinar logistics. To ensure the best audio experience, participants have been placed in silent mode. But if you have any issues or you have any questions, please enter those into the Q&A pod, and you'll see that located in on the lower right side of your screen. This works like a chat. Today's webinar is being recorded. The recording will be posted both to our online Adobe Connect webinar catalog, as well as to our NASA Earthdata YouTube channel within a few days of completion. And then once completed, what I'll do is I will send an email to all of the registrants with both of the recording links. As far as timing is concerned, today's webinar will be 1 hour long with 45 minutes allocated to the presentation and an additional 15 minutes for the question and answer period. And so what I'd like to do next is pull up today's agenda. So hopefully you'll be able to see that in just a moment here. All right. Our speaker for today is Crystal Gummo. She is both an Agile Scrum Master for the NASA Atmospheric Science Data Center, or ASDC, team that is responsible for the development and also the maintenance of the Earthdata Forum. Not only that, but she's also one of the principal developers for the Earthdata Forum. She will begin today's webinar with an introduction to the Earthdata Forum, and then from there she will show you what to expect once on the forum. After that, we'll transition to a live demonstration where she will highlight the key features and functionalities of this application. And then from the live demonstration, our speaker will wrap up with some forum metrics. So after our speaker has finished with her presentation and live demonstration, we will move to a final optional set of polling questions. And then normally I will give these about 3 to 4 minutes or so. We may finish a little bit earlier than normal today so we can, give it a little bit longer. So you have ample time for the short answer question. And then from there, we'll move to the question and answer period. Depending upon the volume of questions that we receive today, I will extend the Q&A period an additional 15 minutes from end time for those of you who wish to stay on the line, who are able to stay on the line. But we do have a hard cutoff of 3:15 p.m. Eastern. During today's Q&A session, we will try to answer as many questions as possible during the time allotted. But if we don't get to your question, there are a couple of things. Our speaker can follow up with you offline after the webinar, but you can also pose your questions by finding the webinar thread within the Earthdata Forum and then post a reply. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Crystal Gummo. Crystal, and I'm going to pull up your slide deck here. All right, thanks everybody.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're here to talk about the Earthdata Forum and using it to connect to a growing body of expertise. By the end of this webinar, you'll know how to find the Earthdata Forum. You'll know how to find content on the Earthdata Forum for the field of study that you're interested in, and you also know how to start participating in the conversations that are happening at the Earthdata Forum. A little bit of background. As this Earth Observing System Data and Information System consists of 12 DAACs. So far, we have 5 DAACs completely onboarded with the Earthdata Forum, and 2 DAACs are up and coming. They'll be onboarding soon. I see 2 people in the Q&A saying they cannot hear. I said Jennifer's on that. All right, so we hope to have 7 DAACs here soon. The Earthdata Forum was created with primary objectives to allow DAAC user services to better support the science community, facilitate knowledge sharing between the science community and subject matter experts. You might hear them referred to as SMEs during this talk, to enable back and forth virtual conversations on topics to further enrich knowledge, to provide transparent public visibility into forum topics, to advance learning by all, break down stovepipes between DAACs to better serve all users, and to build a knowledge base supporting all Earth science users now and in the future. So we're talking about a day in the life of the forum. What does a normal interaction look like? First of all, the user has a question. The user posts the question on the forum. This is an example of the form the user would see. You're going to see more of this at the live demo, so I won't go into too many details of this form now. But it's pretty much what's standard of what you'd expect for an online form with a few EOS-DIS improvements. Moderation. Because we are a NASA.gov site, you know, we are very cognizant of what information gets put out there in the public on a NASA.gov site. So we do have moderators actively monitoring it. So when you post on the forum, your post is not made public initially. The moderators get a notice. They get to see a screen, which gives them an opportunity to approve or deny the post. They will not approve any post that, you know, contains disrespectful language or promoting a particular service or good. You know, that's what the kind of stuff they're looking for. But this was a legitimate question the user has, and what's really great is that question, as SME got notified, hey, there's a question that's right up your alley. This is what you're an expert on. You're a subject matter expert on this topic. And the SME can answer that. The user can come back and say, oh, that's such a good point. That made me think of this other question. And the conversation can go back and forth however many times it needs to until the user gets the information they need. And the real power of the forum, because I know you're probably thinking, hey, couldn't all this happen through email? and for years it has, to be honest. But this content that you see here, which is an example of a great interaction between users, is now visible to pretty much everybody. Questions, conversations, and the answers are now on the site for future users' benefit, which is really great. And that's why the forum exists. Here's an example of, it's taken a while ago, but a screenshot of, you know, a list of conversations you could be a part of and reap the benefit of. Now we're going to pivot to a live demo. We're going to turn off the slide deck. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And what you see here is different ways to get to the forum. A lot of you are probably, if you're in this webinar, you're probably familiar with earthdata.nasa.gov, but if you haven't, I highly recommend bookmarking it. If you already have this site bookmarked, though, it's really easy to get to the forum because you just hit Learn, Community Forums, because this is about learning new things, and we're the first forum listed. Also, if you wanted to bookmark something else, you could bookmark forum.earthdata.nasa.gov. So it's just like earthdata.nasa.gov with just the forum above it. So once you've reached here, we're not even going to log in first. We're just going to see what it's like to experience if I don't even have an account. Let's go to all questions and comments. Announcements, like you see, are on the top. A long list of questions, as you see here, and I'm going to scroll down. Hopefully nobody gets seasick, but you can see we've got pages and pages of these conversations already. Each of these represents a question from a user. Jennifer earlier mentioned the webinar announcement. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of this talk, but say you think of a new question tomorrow. You can always hit post or reply here and ask your question there. But as I mentioned, the all questions and comments, you know, it can be rather long, which tell you the truth, some people enjoy experiencing the forum this way. It's almost like a daily or weekly newsletter, depending on how often they choose to view it, of like, oh, what are people asking about? What are people interested in right now? Lots of interesting conversations. Other users use a forum for targeted information. So I'm going to click back on this home link, and you can do a keyword search, or you can search by tags. And this is something a little different than your average forum, because we wanted to have an easy way for people to drill down what is important to them. Now, we knew that everyone's not going to know what that means, what is tags, so there's a link on the page. It says, what do these tags mean? And you have definitions, because we have a discipline list which aligns with NASA's Earth Science disciplines. You can learn more here. We have a DAAC list. If you're not familiar with what a DAAC is a Distributed Active Archive Center. The major projects, and as you can see, there's a long list. Some of them are acronyms, so we spell them out here because we don't expect everyone to know all the acronyms. And there's a service and usage list. You know, if you have a question about, for instance, data download, that's exactly where you go. But let's say, you know, I already know what a tag is, but I've forgotten what DAAC stands for. You can always hover over these little icons, and it'll give you the Cliff Notes version of that longer page. So hopefully that'll help you get used to this new tagging system. that we have here. But let's say I'm interested in series data. What I've done is click on the major projects, clicked and selected series. Hit submit, and wow, boy, there's a lot of series questions, which is great. But you're like, oh, but I was really interested in maybe this series, the day-night band. If you then click on night, it'll take you to series and night if you type in night in the search box. So this, you really can narrow down your search in exactly what you're looking for. That said, maybe this series list was nice. Maybe this is what you want to visit once a week or something like that, in which case you can bookmark this page if you want and just say, okay, here's, you know, the different posts on the forum related to a project I'm interested in. So that is very nice. Highly recommend bookmarking. Big fan. All right, so let's talk about a few interactions. I've got a few here that I've set up, and not I've set up, but I just found on the forum. User was asking about wind speed and direction for a specific location in Alaska, USA. This is a great example of a user looking for a specific time period, this 4-year window, looking for in a specific location, even gave the lat long, and let me know what's possible. We had a user service, JustDisk user services expert here, give you some information. You can start reading this specific document, some how-tos. Then had Dr. Acker here, he said, oh, hello, you know, what temporal resolution are you seeking? You know, there's a lot of things that might meet your needs. What are you looking for? And the user was able to come back. Again, this is a conversation, cannot stress that enough. I'm looking for hourly values at a height of about 100 meters. And Dr. Acker was able to come back saying, well, we've got this for you. This might be a closer match, and with exact links to even the Giovanni. So that's really an excellent example of a subject matter expert being able to talk directly to a user. Here's a second example. Isolation Clearness Index. We had a user coming in using power data and wanted to know about these 3 parameters. You know, are they interrelated with each other? How does this all work? Was even able to include a screenshot of here's what I'm looking for. And again, our user services said, hey, we reached out to a subject matter expert. Thank you for your question. And Dr. Stackhouse, who was definitely a power expert, was able to say, you know, thank you for using the data. He went into details about what the parameters are. The user came back and, you know, was asking more about different things. And again, Dr. Stackhouse was able to answer saying, you know, well, I'm not familiar with this term, but here's exactly what the terms in our data set mean. And what's really nice, I should have highlighted before too, you know, Dr. Stackhouse was able to say, here's exactly the methodology used for this. So really a good conversation of giving the user what they need. Now, you are now completely sold on the forum. You see the value of it. You really want to participate in this. Go ahead and click on Home if you're following along at home. And you can say, I've got a question. Go ahead and click on Post a New Question. You are going to be asked to log in. If you're already using EOSDIS data, you probably already have an Earthdata login account. And that's what's really nice about this. This is not another password to remember. If you're relatively new, chances are you're going to need an Earthdata login account anyway when you're ready to download Earthdata data. So it's the same Earthdata login you use to download data through earthdata.nasa.gov. Now, I've logged in. It recognized me for who I am, and I'm able to put in a subject. Example, question. I'm going to tell please ignore to my moderators. please ignore. And there is a CAPTCHA challenge. You're basically saying, I am not a robot, I am not a bot trying to attack the site, I am a real person. Again, does this post pertain to any of the following tags? This is optional. So if this seems like, oh, I'm not sure where it falls in it, don't worry. Our moderators can go behind you and add tags to help future users fill it out. However, if you know this is related to Aqua, you know, and downloading Aqua data, you can add it. You can also, oh, I didn't mean data download, I meant data access. You know, you can add as many as you want on here, you know, sky's the limit. Well, not exactly, but still. And then you hit submit, and you will get a message saying, it's been submitted successfully, but it will need to be approved by a moderator before it's publicly visible. You will be notified, okay? And right here, great little link, you can manage your notification settings, because you're like, how am I notified? Most people by default will have these options turned on. The site has two different notifications options. Notifications right here on the website, so it'll actually, you know, this little bell will have a 1 next to it if you have notifications. Or if you're not the type of person that's going to be visiting the forum every day, you just want an email notification, that's what you'll want to do. So, instance, when my question or post as this user is approved or disapproved by the moderator, I'll get an email. When someone replies to a question that you're subscribed, I'm going to talk about subscribing to a question in a minute here, but you are automatically subscribed to any questions you ask. So this is basically also saying if someone asks a question, I mean, if you ask a question, you'll now get an email. You just hit submit to save your changes, and there you go. So I said I promised you I'd show you how to subscribe to a question. Let's go to, like, say, let's pick the first one. I'm really interested in these navigation files. I can click this little icon, and I can subscribe to a question. You are now subscribed and will be notified if there's any new posts. So I will automatically get emails. So there's stuff you're interested in, you can keep an eye on it. Let's see, that covers that part. Also, say you happen to be an expert in this field. You can post reply. It does not have to be a user services member or a subject matter expert. You could post a reply right now and give the user more information. You know, you feel free to become a part of the conversation. This is supposed to be a community. Further, if you happen to be like a science team member, you're one of the people responsible for putting this data together, or you work at one of the DAACs that is responsible for maintaining this data, you can always ask to be certified as a subject matter expert. And you do that by hitting contact us and just say, you know, hey, for instance, I'm on the Calypso science team, you know, please upgrade my account to be a SME. And chances are that community already knows who you are, and they're like, oh yeah, I recognize your name, let's make you a SME. If we don't recognize your name, it will be sent to the Earthdata Forum Active Management Team, which has representatives from every participating DAAC, to give a thumbs up or thumbs down of whether you should be certified as a subject matter expert. I do want to mention user support hours. This is not a 24-hour support operation. It is 9 to 4 Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and of course we honor federal holidays. So don't be dismayed if you put in a post at like 8 o'clock at night and it doesn't get responded to like right away. You know, the moderators will get on it, you know, when they come back into work the next business day. So that is the Earthdata Forum. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and pivot back to the slide deck. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the stats. We officially launched in February 25, 2020, so it hasn't even been a year. It's been a little more than 8 months now, but we already have over 350 questions, over 900 posts, and over 400 registered users. For a pretty young site, that's pretty impressive. But we would love for you to be part of this conversation too. Please join us. I'm sure everyone on this call has knowledge that they could share or questions that they might have. So cannot emphasize this enough. Visit us today. Again, we are forum.earthdata.nasa.gov. And again, we're going to have a Q&A session here in a moment. But if you think of anything tomorrow, feel free to post them as a reply in that webinar announcement that I pointed out earlier. And now I'm going to hand things over to Jennifer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Crystal. At this point, what we'll do is we'll move to an optional final set of polling questions. And as I said, we're pretty early here, so we're going to give these questions about 5 minutes or so, and then from there we'll transition to the Q&A period. All right, thanks everybody. We're going to give these a few minutes, and then we'll take your questions. Okay, everybody, at this point, let's transition to the question and answer period. And if you think of any comments, please feel free to add those into the Q&A pod as well. If you were thinking of responding to the short answer question, you can certainly add that here. All right. I'm just looking to see whether or not we have any questions. Don't see any yet. And I'd like to draw your attention to the bottom right side of your screen. You will have the slide deck for today's presentation is available for download. If you click on the file, you'll be prompted with an option to download the presentation. Anybody have any questions? Additional Q&A panelists who will be available, Dr. James Acker and Michelle from the Atmospheric Science, Michelle Cook from the Atmospheric Science Data Center is also on board. Dr. Acker is from the Goddard Earth Science Data and Information Services Center, or the JESDISC, so feel free to ask away. Let's check and see if there are any questions. Okay, how long would the threads in the forum be accessible before being archived?
That's a good question. We have talked a little bit about archive, but right now there's no large archive plans. The Earth Data Forum Active Management Team could look into that, but right now it's about building it. If we have gone back to a few older posts and say, and we've added a note saying, hey, this might not be available anymore, but try this product instead, that kind of stuff. So we are trying to keep the content relatively current. Dr. Acker, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Not about the archive, length of archive. I mean, it's not uncommon to have forums that have posts several years old, which can still be useful.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Are there any additional questions? Take a look here. I don't see any questions. So here is additional comment that was made. It would be good to be able to connect a collection discovered through Earth Data Search to the forum so that one can find any questions and answers about it. That's a very excellent point. Any additional feedback by anybody? Jim or Michelle? Crystal?
Yeah, I think that's a really neat idea. Our team can look at that.
Okay, great. And, you know, Jim, did you cover the current DAACs that are participating in the forum? Yes, there was a slide that spoke to that, but if you wanted to elaborate, I mean, I can mention it, or Crystal, if you want to mention the DAACs that are currently participating. I'll also copy this into the Q&A pod so that everybody can see.
It's the Land Processing DAAC, the Global Hydrology Resource Center DAAC, the Goddard Earth Science Data and Information Services Center DAAC, the Crustal Dynamics Data Information Systems DAAC, and the Langley Atmospheric Science Data Center DAAC are the 5 that are completely onboarded and in process. LADS, the Level 1 and Atmosphere Archive and Distribution System, is almost done with their journey onboarding. And the Ocean Biology DAAC, which has an existing forum, is doing a lot of excellent work to import their current questions from their existing forum into this forum so their body of knowledge does not get lost when they retire their forum. So there'll be even more wonderful content that people can dig their teeth into on the forum.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. We're just scanning to see whether or not there are additional questions here. All right, well, maybe like one more. All right, well, at this point, I'd like to thank all of you for participating today. What I'll do, I will leave the virtual meeting space open for an additional 10 minutes or so, and then we will log off from the audio component. So certainly if you think of anything that you'd like to pass along to our speakers, or have any questions at all, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A pod. Any final remarks, Crystal? Let me take another look to see if there are any questions.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for participating in the survey at the end, polling at the end. And thank you very much for the ideas for improvements. We welcome those. If you think of any later, feel free to reach out. That Contact Us link at the bottom of every forum page is open to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. At this point, we'll log off from the audio component since I am seeing no additional questions, and I'll leave the virtual meeting space open. Thanks so much for your participation today. All right, have a good afternoon or evening. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.